Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from two important newspapers. The first being the Hindu and the other is the Indian Express. So the most important news and editorial of the day will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with news topic list. Today is 24th of February. The first topic is Asia Economic Dialogue 2022. Second, Notemanufacturer headquarter now prohibited play. This is in Delhi. Third, money laundering, a global problem. We'll see the submissions made by the Solicitor-General to the Supreme Court. Again, we have two editorial a day. This is the first editorial from the Indian Express, a roadmap for India's natural farming ambitions. And the last is an editorial from the Hindu, that is budget lacks power to transform the services. Apart from this, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. And just to tell you about our updated app, this is 2.0, which will help you to get through the articles, news articles, daily MCQs, video blogs, and download the study material. So you can check out our new app. Starting with the first news of the day, that is Asia Economic Dialogue 2022. This particular news is important for General Studies Paper 2, that is Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. So let's understand what is the detail about this news. So recently what has happened, that the Deputy Governor of the RBI and even the RBI Governor, they have come up with a meeting. They're addressing the Asia Economic Dialogue. This was basically by the Deputy Governor of the RBI, where he said that the consumer price index based on inflation are the main yardstick by the RBI for the policy making, right? We also know from the static portions in the economy that definitely the proportion of the CPI and WPI contributes to the formulations of the monetary policy, right? So it says that CPI here that is likely to we have picked in January this year, right? And this was a concern also raised by the many expert and the stakeholder in this concern कि जो जनवरी की इन्फ्लेशन है वो काफ़ी हाई रही थी. Although RBI has set a target of around 4% for 2023. This was the target that was set by the RBI in its Monetary Policy Committee report. So let's see how RBI is going to move ahead with this target. Now, talking about the January retail inflation, what was the actual forecast of the inflation in India? So the retail inflation in January has accelerated a 7-month high and it has rose up to 6.01%, which is pretty higher compared to the last almost, you can say the financial year, right? जहाँ पे mainly due to manufacturing of item prices, the price inflation was seen in the retail market. And it has breached the upper tolerance level by the RBI, which was around 4% and a band of plus minus 2, right? So it should not be higher than 6%. Now, the 6-member Monetary Policy Committee by the RBI has set the interest targeting, जहाँ पे CPI inflations को एक target में रखने की बात की गई है. This is 4% plus minus 2 with the variations. And the level of inflation in India, which is measured on year basis, every year we measure it. So ये देखी गई है कि elevated हुई है due to statical basis, जहाँ पे momentum month on month changes पे रही and inflations are on a negative side, right? So the economy is almost recovering post-pandemic. We can see the recovery in every sectors. So it's expected that in the coming quarters, some performance, some stability in terms of inflation can also be seen. Now, maintaining the status quo, what RBI did in meanwhile, the pandemic in India, India was suffering from the pandemic. So RBI has intentionally tried to maintain the status quo, जहाँ पे जो monetary policy committee है उन्होंने कोशिश की that they have to maintain the accommodative instances of the monetary policy, and even they stated that the repo rates and other instrument which is being used by RBI would not be changed and the status quo would be maintained. So the RBI governor has argued the flexibility that is embedded in the monetary policy, जहाँ पे central bank के पास ये flexibility होती है कि वो inflation को target करे. So this allowed them to deal with the once in a century pandemic, because we haven't seen the pandemic, right? This is something which happened almost in a century. So RBI के लिए भी एक बहुत बड़ी challenging task थी that how we have to target inflation in an economy which is very volatile and even very fragile in terms of setting the sentiments of the consumers. Now, the RBI has been proactive in reducing the interest rate to start with the pandemic purposes and even to have a revival of the economy. तो रेपो रेट की अगर बात करें, रेपो rate was reduced by 115 points in two occasions earlier before the pandemic during this entire cycle of 18 months pandemic that India has come across. Now, the other news, money laundering, a global problem. This particular news is important for General Studies paper 2, where structure, organization, and function of executive and judiciary is concerned. Also, it is important for General Studies paper 2 in same, where government programs and policies and intervention are concerned. So, what is the news all about with regard to the money laundering? बेसिकली एक प्ली फाइल की गई थी, उसके एड्रेस में जो सॉलिसिटर जनरल है उन्होंने सुप्रीम कोर्ट को एड्रेस करते हुए कहा, उनको बताया दैट दे हैव इन्फॉर्म्ड द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हैज इन्फॉर्म्ड द सुप्रीम कोर्ट दैट 18,000 करोड़ रुपीस दैट वाज कॉन्फिस्केटेड बाय द अंडर द प्रिवेंशन ऑफ मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग, जिसको PMLA भी कहते हैं, जो fugitive विजय माल्या, नीरव मोदी और मेहुल चोस्की जो तीन बिजनेसमैन थे, they have left India and they have come up with the NPA issue fraud with the man. So the government of India has confiscated almost 18,000 crore rupees and they have submitted to the bank. This is what the submission was made by the central government on behalf of the Solicitor General, right? So Solicitor General ने बताया है that the money laundering is a global problem. For you as a aspirant of civil services, it is very important that you have a good point in this because in mains they can ask you the questions, right? So the government said that the total proceeds of the crime of the PMLA is pending before the court, which is around a value of 67,000 crore rupees. तो अभी इसमें सिर्फ रिकवरी हुई है almost 18,000 crore rupees की, and the rest amount has to be imported, or you can say that the rest amount has to be recovered by the central government. Now, cases under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So how things goes, जितने भी cases हैं उसमें investigations जो है enforcement directorate करती है, and it varies from year to year. 5-year basis पे अगर बात करें, the number was initially in 2015-16 was only 111, that is 111. Now it has rose up to 981 in 2021. So you can see the number is increasing, the NPA issues, the default with the bank is rising. So the Solicitor General has quoted जो UN की एक report है, which also says that the crime being laundered is around 2.1 trillion globally. अगर पूरे globally बात करें, ये एक value है जो across the globe अभी के present context पे value add करती है. And the total value is around 3.6% of the global GDP. तो अभी पूरे world में जो इस तरह की money laundering की जा रही है उसकी total value है 2.1 trillion and it cost around 3.6% of the global GDP. So this is again a very important point which you can aid in your examination. Now, the Solicitor General also said that this is a supernatural or transitional crime which have brought the community, the global community, even the narcotics, money laundering and terrorism together. Escape route की अगर बात करें, कैसे ये जो individuals हैं, how they come across the escape route and they are exempted, they find themselves not under the jurisdiction of the government of India. So Solicitor General has highlighted कि ऐसे लोग, they have accused of money laundering, they run to the small nations, right? जहाँ पे कोई इंडिया की extradition treaty नहीं है, and even with India, वो अपने वहाँ पे एक citizenship को buy करते हैं, they start staying in a particular region, right? And he said the global tolerance on money laundering has to come down. So definitely a rules regulation not only in India but globally has to come to ensure that money laundering is prohibited to the larger extent. Now, how does it function? What is the ways that typically a money laundering scheme works? So there are three important aspects in this, as you can see in this image. The first is about the placement. So the money, the dirt money, which is called a black money, that is being integrated to a financial system. Then it's moved through a wire transfer. It's called layering, right? So it is being placed. The funds is between the offshore and onshore banks, and then the integration take place where the purchase of luxury financial item, commercial and industrial investment take place. So this is how a typical process of money laundering scheme works. Now, what measures that government of India has taken in this regard? तो कुछ important provisions rules बनाए गए हैं. First is Criminal Law Amendment Ordinance 1944. ये एक ऐसी rule है जो cover करती है proceed on certain crimes like corruptions, breach of trust, cheating and crime under the IPC. उसके अलावा the smugglers and foreign exchange manipulators, जिसमें Fortifiers of Property Act 1976 भी है, cover the illegal acquirement of the property in foreign exchange that manipulates the matter concerning with the accidental or इथ्रो. उसके अलावा narcotics, drugs, psychotropic substances. Basically, in this, the penalty provisions are derived from or used from the illegal traffic or the narcotics tax. So this was recently in the news with regard to the famous celebrity cases that we have come across in the newspaper. Now, other is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This is known as PMLA. एक लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है which put into place India to combat the money laundering. और एक ऐसी provisions है that are applicable with all financial institutions, including the RBI, right? Mutual fund, insurance companies या फिर जो financial intermediaries हैं वो उसके part होते हैं. So this is again an important point that you should note for the prelims examination also. And this was amended in 2012. जहाँ पे एक रिपोर्टिंग एंटिटी को कॉन्सेप्ट को इंक्लूड किया है विच इज इंक्लूड द बैंकिंग कंपनी, फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड इट्स इंटरमीडियरीज. So this is how things are working with regards to the rules and procedures in India about the money laundering. Now, Notemanufacturer's headquarters now a prohibited place. This particular news is important for General Studies Paper 2. Government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from it, design and implementations. So what has happened that the Ministry of Home Affairs has recently issued an order where they have prohibited the Delhi headquarters of Indian currency and bank notes, जहाँ पे money prints होती है, presses हैं वहाँ पे. And this particular unit has a manufacturing facilities of 2,500 denominations, which was declared as a prohibited area under the Official Secret Act by the Union Home Ministry. Right? So, as per the ministry, ये decision ली गई है to prevent the entry of any unauthorized person in their premises, right? So 9 productions unit हैं SPMICL की, जो हमारी मेन कॉर्पोरेशन लिमिटेड है, वो बैंक नोट मैन्युफैक्चर्स करती हैं और सारे एरियाज जो है प्रोहिबिटेड जोन पे आते हैं. सिर्फ दिल्ली एक ऐसी एरिया थी जहाँ पे फाइल्स के रिव्यूज के लिए मीटिंग्स होती थी, बट अगेन it has also been put under the prohibited areas. And the recent order, even the Delhi office has been declared as a prohibited place, and this would be under the high security zone by the security forces. Now, what is SPMCIL? अगर बात करें Security Printing and Mining Corporation of India की, this is engaged in the manufacturing and productions of currency and banknotes, security papers, non-judicial stamp papers, postal stamps, stationeries, passports and visa stickers, security inks, circulations, commemoratives, coins and others. So this is how the SPMCIL works. Now, production unit in India की अगर बात करें, 9 productions unit है, 4 government of India mints, 2 currency note presses, 2 security printing presses and 1 security mill located each in Mumbai, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Noida, Nasik, Devas and Narmadapuram. So these are all the manufacturing, basically the printing mills that is across the India. Now we have 2 editorial a day. The first editorial is Roadmap for India's Natural Farming Ambitions. This particular news is important for General Studies Paper 3. Issues related to farm and indirect farm subsidies, minimum support price, buffer stocks, food security and government regulations. Right. So this editorial has been written by Abhishek Jain. He's a director at the Council for Energy, Environment and Water. So what he wanted to convey we'll understand in detail. So that we'll understand in 3 important subheads. The first is the background, the scaling up of a chemical free farming, and the last is the bottom line. So the entire editorial focuses upon a roadmap for organic and natural farming. So let's understand this editorial in detail. So the editorial states that the recent union budget, that is for 2022 and 23, that has highlighted the center intentions towards natural, chemical free, ऑर्गेनिक एंड जीरो बजट फार्मिंग. और ये इस बार की बजट भी ऐसी बजट है जहाँ पे कंटिन्यूस फोकस रखी गई है किस तरह से नेचुरल फार्मिंग को प्रमोट किया जाए. राइट. सो द सेंटर हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट इट इंटेंशन फॉर प्रमोटिंग नेचुरल एंड केमिकल फ्री फार्मिंग इन द कंट्री across the corridor in the Gangetic Basin. So this is a focus area upon which the organic and zero budget farming would be promoted, but no special allocations has been given to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farm Welfare, right? In fact, जो currently scheme operate हो रही हैं, जैसे परंपरागत कृषि विकास योजना है, national project on organic farming, they did not find any mention in the budget, right? So how the things is going, what is the roadmap that the government has decided, we'll see, and some suggestions coming from the editorial also. So scale up of a chemical farming, अगर बात करें, ये जो केमिकल फार्मिंग उसको कैसे स्केल अप करने की ज़रूरत है. There are 8 suggestions that can have for a chemical free farming, right? This is for the chemical free farming that government can promote. तो पहली चीज है टू फोकस अपॉन द नेचुरल फार्मिंग. जो रेन फीड एरियाज हैं उसके बियॉन्ड भी देखने की जरूरत है. एंड दिस इज समथिंग, दिस एरियाज आर यूजिंग पर हेक्टेयर, इनका कैलकुलेशंस करते हैं फर्टिलाइजर बहुत ज्यादा यूज करते हैं. एंड दिस इज प्रिवलेंट अक्रॉस द रीजन, राइट. सो देयर शिफ्ट कैन बी देयर फॉर द केमिकल फार्मिंग विच वुड बी ईजियर इन दिस रीजन. Now the second is to enable a automatic enrollment of farmer transitions, जहाँ पे केमिकल फ्री फार्मिंग क्रॉप इंश्योरेंस स्कीम्स को प्रमोट किया जाना चाहिए, लाइक पीएम फसल बीमा योजना. Now some other suggestions, there would be 8 suggestions that has been suggested in this editorial. So these are first two. Now moving ahead with the third suggestions, that is to promote a micro enterprises, right, जो कि प्रोड्यूस करेंगे इनपुट्स फॉर द केमिकल फ्री एग्रीकल्चर. यहाँ पे जो एड्रेस चैलेंजेस करने की कोशिश की गई है, दैट इज टू कंबाइन द प्रमोशंस ऑफ नेचुरल फार्मिंग, सेटिंग अप अ विलेज इनपुट प्रिपरेशन एंड अ सेल शॉप. तो इससे बेनिफिट क्या होगी, दैट 2 सेल शॉप्स पर विलेज across the country would provide a livelihood options to the 5 million youth and the women, right? So these are the third suggestions. Now moving to the other suggestions, like for other would be, the fourth is leverage NGO and campaign farm, where it would promote the practice of sustainable agriculture across the country. The fifth is beyond the curriculum of agriculture universities. ये ज़रूरी है कि इसके जो स्किल्स हैं, अपस्किलिंग की जाए एग्रीकल्चर एक्सटेंशन वर्कर्स की, और एक सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर प्रैक्टिसेस को भी प्रमोट किया जाए, लोगों को अवेयर किया जाए. सिक्स सजेशन इज टू लेवरेज द कम्युनिटी इंस्टीट्यूशंस, जहाँ पे अवेयरनेस जनरेशन हो, इंस्पिरेशंस हो, सक्सेस मॉडल बताया जाए, एंड सोशल सपोर्ट सिस्टम्स वुड आल्सो बी प्रोवाइडेड. इन अदर वर्ड, द गवर्नमेंट शुड फैसिलिटेट एन इकोसिस्टम जहाँ पे फार्मर के पास एक ऑप्शंस हो टू गेट अ सपोर्ट सिस्टम व्हाइल वर्किंग इन अ ट्रांजिशन मोड आल्सो. Now, seventh is to support the monitoring impact of studies. ऐसी assessment की गई है, where the approach for scaling the sustainable agriculture should also be promoted. And finally, that they need to have integrations of the millet promotions with the aim to promote sustainable agriculture in our country. So this is how things are going to work in these directions. Now, moving ahead with the bottom line, right? What is the bottom line? How we can conclude? The India's food system need to be a holistic transformation in demand, productions and supply chain. तो गवर्नमेंट को ये फैसिलिटेट करने की जरूरत है, क्रिएशन वेयर सपोर्ट सिस्टम टू द फार्म वुड मेक ट्रांजिशंस टू मूव टुवर्ड्स अचीविंग अ केमिकल फ्री फूड सिस्टम. So this is how the editorial is all about. The talking the conclusion part. If you're writing in mains paper, you can include some of the suggestions. Now moving ahead with the other editorial of the day, that is budget lacks power to transform services. This particular news is important for general studies paper 2. That is government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. So let's understand what this editorial wanted to convey. We'll understand this in 5 important subheads. The first is budget allocation across sector, role of reliable energy, reasons for the lack of integrations of electrification, need for multiple policies and the way forward. तो पूरी एडिटोरियल में बात की गई है टुवर्ड्स सस्टेनेबल एंड क्लीन एनर्जी. सो इस बार की लेटेस्ट बजट में ये डेमोन्स्ट्रेट किया गया है दैट गवर्नमेंट इंटेंडेड टू प्रायोरिटाइज द इन्वेस्टमेंट फॉर क्लीन एनर्जी. एक सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट की रोड मैप बनाने की कोशिश की गई, बिकॉज वी हैव अ कमिटमेंट दैट वाज मेड अंडर द कोप 26 इन ग्लासगो, राइट, वेयर द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैज आल्सो सेट 2070 एज अ नेट जीरो एमिशंस टारगेट, राइट. सो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर के लिए हमें सिर्फ एक विजन के साथ आगे बढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं. वी नीड टू अचीव द इंस्ट्रूमेंट वेयर द पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंटेशन एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लेवल वर्क हैज टू बी देयर इन अ कोहेरेंस. नाउ बजट एलोकेशंस अक्रॉस द सेक्टर की अगर बात करें, गवर्नमेंट ने कैसे कोशिश की है कि जो बजट जहां पावर की जरूरत है उसकी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कैसे की गई. इफ यू टॉक अबाउट हेल्थ सेक्टर्स, 16% इंक्रीज हैज बीन एस्टिमेटेड इन द ओवरऑल एलोकेशंस, but the medical public health spending was reduced by 45% in the current budget. Education sector की अगर बात करें, 11.86 increase has been allocated, but despite जो digital education promote की गई है during the COVID-19, the government has also included e-Vidya programs that has shown the reductions in the allocation by 35%. And despite this increased estimate, health and education continue to share only 2% of budgetary allocations annually. So कहीं पे ज़्यादा कहीं पे कम. So what the editorial wanted to convey that there should be uniformity in terms of the sectors which is dedicatedly require the government backing. Now, role of a reliable energy is again something very important. ये widely recognized की गई है that electric supply can improve the delivery of health and education. Without electricity, these two sectors would be again something which would be not making a sense, right? So around 74% of the target for the sustainable development goal are interlinked with the universal access to the reliable energy. Again, an important point to note here. Now, despite 44% of the school and 25% of the health centers, primary health center remain unelectrified. Now, रीजंस की अगर बात करें फॉर द लैक ऑफ इंटीग्रेशन एंड इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन, क्या क्या चीज़ों की ज़रूरत है, कहाँ पे वे लैकिंग. सो द लैक ऑफ इंटीग्रेशन एंड इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन रिक्वायर डेवलपमेंट इन द पॉलिसी डॉक्यूमेंट. कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों को हाईलाइट करने की जरूरत है. द गवर्नमेंट नीड टू फोकस अपॉन द लैक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एंड डेवलपमेंट लिंकेजेस. एक जो पुअर कोऑर्डिनेशन मैकेनिज्म है बिटवीन द सेक्टर्स एंड डिपार्टमेंट, दैट नीड टू बी ओवरकम. एंड पुअर एक्सेस टू appropriate finance should also be taken care by the central government as well as by the state government. Now, need for multiple policy. Essentially, it is required कि जो development है that has to be demonstrated not only by a single policy, but इसको larger extent में multiple policy के साथ देखने की जरूरत है. अगर आप example के तौर पे लें, in Assam, where energy vision document laid out the electricity and development outcome, it has also come up with the solar energy policy in 2017 that operationalized the action plan, and it has already supplemented to each other, right? So successfully integration of electricity provision, maintaining the policy framework also include the innovation and financing mechanism. Now, way forward की अगर बात करें तो ये ज़रूरी है that the main development policies and objective of the health education that require a reliable electricity. एक continuation of electricity prerequisites हैं इनके सारे benefits के लिए. And a reliable electricity would definitely provide for healthcare school that would be responsible for the centralized decision making, जो state level पे भी हो और national level पे भी. So the assistant has to come from both the side. And allocation of fund is again to set a robust data governance mechanism where it is critical for integrative action and evidence-based policy making. Now, there's a need for more flexible in allowing the facilities to prioritize providing reliable and sustainable electricity, right? So the government need to come up with some policies where they need to set a target, a roadmap that we are prioritizing and providing the reliable energy and sustainable electricity, so it is benefiting the larger sector of our economy. So this is how the way forward can be concluded. Moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answer of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is A. For second question, also the correct option is A. Today's MCQ for practice, आपको बताना है ILP के बारे में. ILP is issued by the Union Ministry of Home Affairs. The system is enforced today in Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. So do check it out. Which among the following is the correct answer? Moving to the second question. Gavi, basically this is a COVAX program. आपको बताना है कि ये program में कौन से statement correct. COVAX program is led by the Alliance Gavi, World Health Organizations, Coalition for Epidemics Preparedness and Innovations. The aim of this program is to ensure equitable distribution of the vaccine globally, right? So you need to check what is the correct answer because this would be again significant for many other competitive examinations also. This was all about daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.